your morning with relevant information that you need to know as you go about business, and also a bit of light moments here. Don't forget, for sports lovers, always we have the sports updates, and we make sure you're well versed with what happened and the latest. Of course, looking also in the print media, where we give you an insight of what is happening regarding papers within the region. But above all, we make sure that we equip you with relevant information so that you can reason and fit well in any important topic of discussion. Now, this morning, we are going to be looking at progress of establishing a cooperative bank in Uganda. Many times, we've had people talk about cooperatives. What are cooperatives? Many times, we've had people yearn for a cooperative bank. But recently, it was clear that government of Uganda agreed that we shall have a cooperative bank in Uganda. And any time from now, I'll be joined by my guest, who is Ivan Asimwe, the CEO, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, the man I usually refer to as cooperatives, because most of the times, actually, when we have him, we are discussing progress of cooperative movement in Uganda. It is believed that once this bank is in place, then many of the cooperators, many of people in these cooperatives will be able to access funds at a much lower cost, and of course, where it is better understood of at least clear, more friendly payment terms, clear and more friendly payment terms for them to be able to pay this money. Currently, many say commercial banks do not understand them very well. Many have had this argument that commercial banks, sometimes they're giving them either loans that are so expensive, or they even don't have something tailor-made for them. More so here we speak about the field of agriculture, the farmers. But join me, welcome my guest this morning. Ivan, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, moderator. Good morning, viewers. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Now, just going straight to our topic, it was all good news to cooperators all over Uganda when they heard that sooner than later there was going to be a fully fledged cooperative bank in this country. Let's look at first, when we talk about cooperatives, what are we referring to? And who are the people that stand to benefit from this?
Thank you so much. Once again, good morning, viewers. My name is Ivan Asimwe, and I'm the General Secretary of Uganda Cooperative Alliance. I'm always happy to be here, and I'm always grateful to UBC for giving the cooperators the opportunity to learn, listen, understand, and plan strategically. So I'm so happy, delighted to be here. So what is a cooperative ideally? A cooperative is an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their social, economic, cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. In other words, it is formed by members, it is owned by members, controlled and benefiting members. That's where we come together as farmers. Take an example of coffee farmers. We realize our challenge is maybe inputs or market or value addition. We come together and then say, let's control our coffee. That is a cooperative. It's based on 7 principles which are international, and it's also based on values. Now, when you talk about the cooperative bank, I'm very happy that we are now talking about it. Because ideally, a cooperative bank is that bank which is established based on cooperative principles and values. Like I've mentioned, cooperatives are based on 7 principles. These are rules that govern cooperatives. And that's why cooperatives are different from companies, from associations, because of their unique nature. So when you talk about these principles, then you talk about voluntary and open membership, you talk about democratic member control, talk about member economic participation, talk about autonomy and independence, talk about education, training and information, talk about cooperation among cooperatives, and then you talk about the community concern. Those are 7 principles. And based on the values of member ownership, control, and then benefiting the members and being used by the members. So this bank ideally will be established by the cooperators themselves. I'm very happy with your preamble. Yes, it is not that we don't have commercial banks or other financial institutions. We have them here. I can see we are almost around 27 now banks. But the question is, are these banks providing better, affordable, appropriate financing, especially to the common Ugandan? Someone in the rural area. That is what I'm interested in. My mother, your mother, my grandfather, my grandmother, deep in Kabong, does he or she have access to this money? The question may be yes, but the question again is it appropriate? Is it affordable? Affordability is in terms of costs. How much is the cost of the loan? How about there is the face value? Sometimes they just give you the face value. Our interest rate is 18%. But when you have to look at the intrinsic costs, then the cost is very high. Compared to the expected revenues, you find my mother in the village who is rearing goats cannot break even. That is a challenge. Now, is it appropriate? The gestation period, assuming these are farmers, the gestation period vis-a-vis the time for repayment. You can imagine, Chirabo, I grow coffee. It takes me a minimum of around 2.5 years. 2.5 years for you to be able to harvest the coffee. But you are getting a loan from a commercial bank and you expect to start paying it tomorrow, after 1 month. Before you even prepare the garden, you are supposed to start paying back. That is the appropriateness. So here we are saying, I think as cooperators, who are the majority? You know, when you talk of cooperators in this country, we are the majority. We are the largest constituency.
How do you become the majority?
15 million Ugandans
when we assume
belong to cooperatives.
The cooperative movement perished long ago.
I think that is a myth. People need to know.
People believe cooperatives were totally destroyed in this. Few are surviving.
And that is why I'm so grateful with UBC, because you always give us the opportunity to tell Ugandans that actually cooperatives are still there and very strong. You know, some people do not know that a SACCO is a cooperative. Sometimes when I'm training, you hear someone saying, cooperatives are no more, we only have SACCOs. But a SACCO is a savings and credit cooperative organization. It is a type of cooperative that provides financial services. Maybe
what is still in the mind is the old cooperatives that now we can talk about Bugisu Cooperative, which is still there. Then there is one that recently is doing well, Chibinge. Those are coffee farmers. So they still have that in mind of where they grow together, planting, they offer seedlings. Someone can be assured of money because they have some crops, and when the harvest comes, they can deduct. So few of those are still thriving. Yeah,
I think we cannot entirely blame Ugandans, because when you have to look at the ideology and following the history of cooperatives in this country, they were established by the farmers in 1913. And based on that, many people have always thought that when you talk about cooperatives, then you mean farmers. Ideally, they are not wrong, but in principle, they needed more education. Why? In olden days, educated with the challenges who would want to produce together, bulk, value add, and then market. But in the present scenario, in the present economic times, everybody has realized that it is only through cooperation that you can become stronger. That's why in our culture they say Cooperation is power. When you join it 2, when you add 1 plus 1, you don't get 2. That is finance. Because of synergetic effect, you can have 3 or 4, 5, because the power is stronger. Now, as we speak today, the educated already have cooperatives. Talk about accountants. Accountants have a circle, ICPAU circle. Talk of lawyers, Uganda Law Society. Talk about the medics. Talk about the army, Wazalendo. You can imagine the army has the biggest circle in the whole country, Wazalendo circle. Bigger than most of the commercial banks. Talk about the prisons, the police, URA. Then talk about now the doctors, they have formed the health cooperative. Go to energy. We now have energy cooperatives that are distributing power like umeme. Talk about Chegegwa Energy Cooperative Society. They supply power in 12 districts like umeme does, with even prepaid meters. Talk about housing. Talk about tourism. Talk about water and environment. Of recent, our people have formed the water and environment cooperatives. Why? Because they want to preserve and conserve the environment. So ideally, when we talk about cooperatives, we are now beyond farming. But in all sectors of the economy, how do you bring people together in the equation? I'm very happy when the government says we want to bring everybody together. That's a very good move.
And in all government programs now, it's not individual, very few are, but it is bring people together.
Very much.
The so-called circles that many people are now very conversant with, so that government can give them support. Now, Ivan, when you talk about this cooperative bank, help us understand how far, because yes, people are eager to know how far have you reached plans, and also how different is it going to address the needs of the cooperators that other banks have failed?
Very much where we are. Viewers, before I even go to where we are, we need to borrow a leaf from other countries. Because when you talk about the cooperative bank, I know someone may ask, especially the elite. You know, the elite have very many questions these days. But we need really to understand what is the context, or what is outside there. How are these banks operating? You can imagine this morning, I was reading about Rabobank. Rabobank is a cooperative bank in Netherlands. Can I tell you its total assets? 629, it is 628.5 billion euros. Viewers, do you have calculators there? You will help me. 628.5 billion euros is the total asset base of Rabobank. When I put in a calculator, it is 48 times bigger than our national budget. Because our national budget currently is around 52 trillion. So the other one is 48 times bigger than our national budget. That is a bank, a Rabobank for cooperators. It is a farmers bank in Netherlands. You go to Kenya, our neighbors here. It now has a market share of 10%, which is the third largest in Kenya. Established in 1967, when ours had been established in 1964. It means now we would be ahead of Kenya. We are talking about the economy of Kenya being the largest in East Africa. The reason is simple, and they have not used magic. The principle is Kenyans understood the role of cooperatives, because cooperatives are leading in the Kenyan economy. You can imagine their bank, established 3 years afterwards, it is now having a market share of 10%. You go to Philippines. Philippines has 22 cooperative banks. You go to Germany. Germany has very many cooperative banks. They even have an association of cooperative banks. You go to South Africa. You go to China. China has a cooperative bank. In fact, it is not one. There are many that are providing credit to the rural communities. Do you know why China and these other countries have cooperative banks, and they say these ones, their purpose is to provide credit to the rural communities, because there was a gap where these banks are not closing these gaps. You know, banks are profit-oriented. They are looking at profits, and where they don't see profits, they don't venture into that. So, but the cooperative bank, now coming back to your question, how unique it is. The uniqueness of the cooperative bank is that it touches where the commercial banks have failed to touch. I will tell you, moderator, in 1997, when Uganda Cooperative Alliance, with the support of UNDP, working with the government, especially with Professor Kamuntu, Professor Kagonyera, Professor Suruma, that was the team. They moved across the country. By then I was still a young man. I had just joined the university. In 1990s, around 96, 97, 98, they traversed the whole country, mobilizing communities to establish village banks. I don't know whether you understand that. You remember the village bank model. So the village banks were established then with the support of Uganda Cooperative Alliance. People who needed to know history. People just hear circles. What is the originality? So they started as village banks. That was Uganda Cooperative Alliance with the support of UNDP and the government. So afterwards, in 2003, I just joined the circles, the circle movement. Then they had now to change the name of Village Bank to Savings and Credit Cooperative Organization. And what was the agenda? The agenda was that the commercial banks had not served the common Ugandan. And the people in rural areas were not accessing money, especially credit. It was even very hard. Like my father was a businessman, he was rich, but he didn't have an account in a bank. Because banks were in Mbarara, in Kabale, those bigger towns. So there was a gap in the rural communities. So you can imagine now my father could not go to Mbarara to borrow. Neither could he go to Mbarara to deposit. You remember by then there was no technology, no phones, nothing. So ideally, UCA and the government saw it earlier and said, how do we extend financial services to the rural areas? Then they came up with the village banks and later circles. And you have seen what the circles have done to the rural communities. So by bringing in the cooperative bank, ideally we are now trying to consolidate these resources together because the circles are there. I am appreciative with the government. Government has supported us under the parish development model. Every parish now, the 10,594 parishes will all have circles. All that is money. Every year, 100 million going to every parish. So already money is there. Emyoga, they are all there. Plus these other circles, which are all there. Now, strategically, we now need to see how do we consolidate these resources together. And we can only consolidate them through a cooperative bank. Because ideally, it doesn't make sense for you to begin cooperatives at grassroots, then you reach at a certain point, then you create a gap. So it is the gap that we are trying to close. And it is virgin, reason being, the resources are already there. I will tell you, moderator, today, if you said all circles contribute to your money, we are in trillions of money. So we have the capacity, we have the financial muscle. Wazalenda alone has the capacity to start a bank. But they don't want to start their own bank. We want to consolidate. Because for us cooperators, the sixth principle says cooperation among cooperatives. Let's come together now that we have all of these small banks which are called the circles. We have these other cooperative unions and other cooperative societies. Let's consolidate our resources together under one envelope. Let us talk to government. Government has put in a lot of money for agriculture in the commercial banks.
True, yes.
There is ACF, Agricultural Credit Facility. It is there, lying in the banks.
Absorption has become a problem.
Very much.
Farmers are not risking.
Farmers are not risking. Banks are not risking. You get me? But the solution is, if we have a cooperative bank, we have these resources together, then we have the cooperative bank going through the cooperative structures, I think you are getting me.
Very.
This is a cooperative bank. This is a circle like Yamuzhungu in Kabale district. Then the cooperative bank will now push the money. It goes to the circle pushes the money to the farmers, and the farmer has access to money. You know, developing this country, I've told the people, you don't need witchcraft. It's about strategic thinking and strategic planning for the country. So it is very clear that actually when you bring this cooperative bank and you have these structures all aligned to the system, then automatically even my grandmother in the village in Kabongo will access this money through the circle, through an area cooperative enterprise, through a cooperative union, or any other form of society. Now, given all that, where are we?
Even before we get to that, I have to go for a very short break. Allow me interject at that time. When we return, we'll be looking at the progress now. Where are we as far as establishing that bank? Recently, I was speaking to one of the farmers and I was telling him, why don't you get a loan? He said, I don't have a land title, so I cannot get a loan because I don't have enough collateral. But then I told him, what if you belong to a certain cooperative? They would simply say, no, we can give you this money. We know you're in cattle, you're in dairy, you get this. Or we know you have a garden, you're going to harvest. And commercial banks don't understand this business. But cooperatives and a cooperative bank will do that greatly. We'll return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Amazina nabanyeta ndiyamuba Amon Sarongo kandi nanye nuko kweyeta chairman w'abantu bino burema ahabwa Rushenyi PWD Emyoga Sako.
My name is Nyamuba Amon Salongo and I serve as the chairman of PWD Emyoga Sako in Rushenyi constituency. As individuals with disabilities, we have greatly benefited from the support we received in the form of 30 million Ugandan shillings seed capital. Despite facing challenges, the impact has been immense. Our SACCO consists of 211 members, and we have utilized the opportunity to engage in goat rearing. By taking advantage of the low interest rates provided, we have been able to purchase goats. While some members have faced difficulties, this initiative has proven beneficial overall. Additionally, we were later granted an additional 20 million Ugandan shillings, which we put to good use. This financial support has played a significant role in the progress of each and every SACCO member. Through these initiatives, we aim to ensure that everyone in our community benefits from our collective efforts.
I got it. What do you mean you got it? Have you won a lottery?
Yes, this is kind of like a lottery to me.
Let me see. But these are your receipts now.
Yes, exactly. Now, and I was burdened by the penalties and the interest, but guess what? All I had to do was to pay my principal tax, and now I'm free.
What?
Yes.
How? I mean, it's impossible.
It is possible. The government has done it. Yes, the government has given a chance to all taxpayers to pay their outstanding principal tax that accrued until 30th of June with no interest or penalties.
But now they're really
Imagine, yes! So yeah, all you have to do is simply pay your principal tax and enjoy the waiver on penalties and interest. And this goes up to the end of December 2023.
How do I do that to also enjoy the waiver?
All you have to do is simply pay your principal tax to benefit from waiver on interests and penalties that runs till end of December 2023. Pay your outstanding principal tax using the available payment channels or simply dial *285# or visit the nearest URA office for guidance before 31st December 2023. Remember, this chance comes only once.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, through this break, I've noticed that, well, it's becoming colder. Maybe it will shower sooner than later here in Kampala. So in case you're coming to town, carry yourself something to warm you. In case you have infants, make sure they are in safe hands and, of course, warm. Many have begun school today or tomorrow. Keep them warm. We are in the final rainy season of the year in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. We have the March to May and, of course, August to December. Now, it's no excuse that it's a cold weather, because that we know. Despite climate change, at least something has remained a bit similar to the range. We may have less or above normal, but yes, it is what it is. I'm still with Ivan Asimwe, the General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, with whom we are discussing establishment of a cooperative bank, a dream that many cooperators, that many farmers actually have been longing for. Now, before we went for this break, we were eager to know how far is this dream come true?
Yeah, thank you so much. How far? I'm very happy that last month the steering committee was launched by our Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, and we are now in high gear. We have started consultations. We have consulted many stakeholders, because starting a bank, Chirabo, is not like starting a shop. A bank is bigger. You need to consult. You need to do research so that you avoid any mistakes. We are also using consultants to exactly establish, to understand what happened to the old bank. Why was it closed? By the way, was it the bank that was closed, or it was a different thing? So having all of those nitty-gritties, we come up with a report which we shall share with the stakeholders. And we are not ending there. We are even holding a national cooperative stakeholder meeting at Silver Springs. Next Thursday, we shall invite you. 28th of September. We are having that national cooperative consultative meeting across the country. We want to bring the cooperators together so that we think together. Because this bank, ideally, will be owned, controlled, used by cooperators. So, having finished all these consultations, then also having the national consultative meeting, then we shall consolidate all the ideas. Then again, we have other meetings. We bring all the research studies together so that by the time we are starting, we know how, when, who, and what. The www.how. We need to comb it up because we do not want to make a mistake. Fortunately, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, as an apex, is the one chairing this steering committee. Personally, as a General Secretary, I'm the one chairing this committee. And we shall even have time to meet with His Excellency and brief him. We also meet with other key stakeholders so that we see how to move, because we do not want to make a mistake. We want really to move in a strategic way. So I really want to inform Ugandans that having launched the committee, we have done all this, and soon we shall update you on how far we are. But ideally what we want is to have a bank up and running, serving a common person. I remember we discussed this. Where is the missing link? Where is the gap? Talk about these commercial banks. I'm a farmer. I hope you're also a farmer. Me, I'm a farmer. I don't want to tell people that I'm a farmer when I don't know a garden. Practically, I'm a farmer. Now, but it is very hard to get an agricultural loan from a commercial bank. Personally, you can imagine now a person of my level, if I fail to get an agricultural loan from a commercial bank, then how about someone from Chisoro? So, what we are trying to say, let's have a financial institution that speaks to the needs of the farmers. Not only farmers, but the common person in Uganda. Whether you are in poultry, whether you're in carpentry, whether you're in whatever field, But as long as you don't have the other access, then we are coming in to close this gap. And you again own a bank, because most of these banks are not owned by Ugandans. But here is a situation where this is a local bank owned by real Ugandans, where you are proud, like I've mentioned, in Netherlands. This is a farmer's bank, Rabobank, with a net worth of 628.5 billion euros. So maybe in the next 10 years, we shall have the biggest bank owned by Ugandans, which is a cooperative bank, like it is in Kenya and other countries. So ideally, this is what we want to see. Now, look at what is happening currently. Why are people not accessing credit from these commercial banks? Conditionalities. You need a title. You need this. You need this. But here we are saying this cooperative bank is going to work through the structures, the cooperative structures, so that Ivan Asimwe, who is a member of a SACCO in Bundibujo, will not need to go to Mbarara, but will go through the SACCO. And these SACCOs don't ask for titles because we are neighbors. We know each other. We know each other.
We have enough security for each
other.
Very good.
Loan. Then there is also the integrated cooperative model, whereby, for example, if you're a farmer, you are linked to a financial institution. I'll give you an example of a direct cooperative in Mbarara. It's called Dabesiga Nakashali Nebiharwe. When you are a farmer, you bring in your milk. When you go to a SACCO to access credit, they don't need any security, no guarantor. Your security, your guarantor is your milk. So ideally, the other arm, which is the diary, will now just write a letter to the SACCO. Ivan Asimwe should get money because he brings milk every day. That is all, and you get your money. Once payment is due, they just go through the SACCO, deduct the advance, give you the balance. If you need a caricides, you don't need to go to any shop. You just send your boy, go and pick a caricide from my agricultural cooperative, and then the SACCO will compute. For them, the SACCO and the diary, they speak together because they are serving the same person. That is the model we are looking at. Ugandan is why we are poor. It's not that we don't have resources, but we are not coordinated. You find you are here, you're a farmer, but the banker cannot help you, the buyer cannot help you, the input supplier cannot help you, so you are just there in the middle. But what we are trying, can we make sure that all these speak to each other so that the farmer who is at the center gets services from each and every point in a coordinated manner? That's what we are looking at, having a bank. And by the way, even beyond the bank, you know, we have an insurance company. You are aware? Cooperative insurance company, I'm the board chairman. So we are not only talking about the bank, the insurance is there, the transport
because actually
is there.
Most of these commercial banks, why they don't want to extend loans to farmers is these loans are very risky. They don't have best policies of how you're going to insure someone who is dealing with life. Because plants and animals are living. In case one asks me, in case it doesn't rain, you depend on rainfall-fed agriculture. So how do we recover this money? In case the animals you want to purchase die, you know, how do we recover? So insuring agricultural loans is a complicated thing and hard for a number of commercial banks to venture into.
And moderator, that is why we now started with the insurance arm. Because we wanted to start a bank when we have an insurance side, so that we can now de-risk all that is happening in the agricultural sector, especially the agricultural sector. So that one is already covered. So another thing, I want to call upon my friends in the Bank of Uganda. Let us realize that we sit in this country, Uganda. Let's understand the needs of our people. Because you see, I don't want to entirely blame commercial banks. Because there are conditionalities by the central bank where they are categorizing loans. These are very bad loans, right off these, you know they are nitty-gritties. But if we understood the economy of this country, ideally, Bank of Uganda should be there to nurture, to support the banking sector, but not to put conditionalities. That's why most of these commercial banks failed. They closed, especially the indigenous ones, because they are subjected to very harsh conditionalities without taking into context the Ugandan economy. So I would really want to call upon them. This is where we are heading. We are heading into the banking sector as cooperatives. We really request the Bank of Uganda, and that is why we have also consulted them. They have presented already. So we are asking them, can we have conditions that will help the Ugandan financial sector grow rather than strangling it? But I hope, given their submission, we are going to sit again on the table so that we have very good terms for the cooperators to own and run their bank. Yeah, but we still have a lot, like you are saying. I think as Ugandans, we really need to invest a lot in capacity.
Now, talking about that, this is something that also, understanding cooperatives and how they work. When you look at a large percentage of cooperatives in Uganda, even before we go to the bank, why are they struggling so much? When we talk about payment, leave alone those that are in the agricultural sector, government has even tried to issue some money through a cooperative model known as circles. And recovery becomes a problem. Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, when you look at youth livelihood program, when you look at a number of programs that have come up, people are failing to understand that this is money meant to be paid back. People are failing to put this money to proper use. Now there is glow, but government keeps on. You know, we won't give up. We won't give up. We will try. When you look at even PDM, which is a revolving fund, and someone has to pay after a period of 3 years, there is a fear that still people may fail, and yet government will only re-inject that has been over time. Asime, where is the problem?
You know, when you say that cooperatives are failing, you know, when you are to...
When it comes to recovering, giving back this money, is where we have the problem. Because even through a cooperative bank, I'll still come and get a loan. And I'll still have to pay back with little or interest because the terms are friendly. But if we still have this culture of Ugandans, some who either businesses go wrong or we don't know.
You know, when you say that cooperatives are struggling, it depends on the direction you are facing. When you are facing the north, then you say the people from north are suffering. When you are facing east, the same story. So, but ideally, everybody is struggling in this economy. Not only in Uganda, but the global economy. Everybody is struggling. Let's understand that. Now, there are like 2 or 3 things that I can explain here. Moderator, I can tell you that in the 1960s, cooperatives were controlling this economy. You can imagine by 1965, only the cooperatives in the agricultural sector were controlling 325,311,500 Uganda shillings by then. They had 100% monopoly to Guinea cotton. They were controlling 90% and 60% of both Arabic and Robusta coffee. In 1964, they had a lot of money that they established a bank, the cooperative bank. They had, you can imagine, when you go to history, by 1952, a cooperative in Masaka had a coffee processing plant. Can you imagine? By then, 1952, before independence. So what am I trying to explain? Cooperatives, it depends on how you take them. So by then, cooperatives were very strong. That the government in 1963 established cooperative education. They established the cooperative college at Bukarasa, that later went to Chigumba in 1974. Now, where have we gone wrong? For us to say that why are cooperatives struggling? Number one, cooperative education. Government was very fast to realize in 1963 that there was need for cooperative education, because you cannot have a sector grow unless you emphasize, unless you invest in education. So still, when you come back here to Uganda, from 1964 to date, 2023, our cooperative colleges, Chigumba and Tororo, are still offering certificates and diplomas. If you went to Tanzania, the Cooperative College of Tanzania, which is now Moshi University, was established in 1963, the same year with Uganda. But they are now offering PhDs in cooperatives. They have professors in cooperatives with an enrollment of 10,000 students. You go to Kenya. Kenya was established in 1967, the Cooperative College. They have now started admitting PhDs, but we are still at certificate and diploma. So when you talk about cooperatives, invest in education. That is the first thing. Second thing, our cooperatives, which were very strong, lost most of their assets during the wars. And then after, I am so grateful with this government that is trying to compensate them. However much there are some challenges that you have seen in the papers, but I hope government will iron it out. But government has tried to compensate them. But now they are compensating them very many years later. Because these ones lost in 1979 war, 1981 to 86. So to date, those ones that remained struggling because they had lost. It's like they were orphans. So, and they needed support as early as yesterday. But they are now being compensated. So that is a challenge. Had they not lost that, all those assets, like it is in Kenya, cooperatives would be leading in this country. However, we cannot lose hope. Then another thing, maybe lastly, is the ideology, understanding the cooperative ideology. I'm so grateful that the government is putting in money in the PDM, Myoga, and the others. But the gap which is there is for people understanding the cooperative model, the cooperative ideology, and linking it to what is needed currently. So I want to call upon also government. We are there. Government users, Uganda Cooperative Alliance is there with an experience of 61 years in the cooperatives. So we can work together and sensitize the masses, because for a cooperative to be strong and sustainable, it is not a matter of giving it a handout. No. Cooperators themselves have resources.
So they must understand the fundamental principles of
They must understand the fundamental principles and values of cooperatives before you promote them. That is also another challenge, number 3. But I hope that when we sit on a table together with the current government, with the current president who is passionate, then a lot is going to happen. And I'm very happy when you look at the current trend. You can imagine currently we have, by June 2nd, we had 43,850 registered cooperatives serving 15 million Ugandans. And if you have to look at the direct beneficiaries, we are now 30+ million Ugandans. So that means that soon all Ugandans will be attached to cooperatives.
Well, I just want to thank you so much, Ivan. You've just brought in something that has trickled my mind when you said Ugandans must understand the fundamental principles of cooperatives. And to me, I smell a rat here, because most of the times I've seen politicians move out people who are preaching the gospel of cooperatives. Let me use circles, that is very common. Today people will be told, let's make groups, let's form circles, and we get PDM money. I even listened to this very well. And we get PDM money. Let's form a cooperative, because a circle is, so that we get PDM money. When we had the gospel of circles many years back, from circles government was sent. Yet this is a very wrong ideology. It should be that they come together with the unifying factor, have savings. If this money is to come, it should be an additional, but not the foundation of why they come together. As we leave, I just need your opinion on that, or comment.
I think ideally what is needed is the mindset change. We really need to train to build the capacities of every Ugandan, including politicians. I cannot entirely blame them, because some of them, you know, someone in my constituency, I'm sorry to say this, he was telling people, you know, form circles, government will give you money. Then after the meeting, I sat with the politician. By the way, Honorable, what is a circle? The Honorable tells me a circle is this. Can you imagine? Someone is promoting something that you don't know, that the SACCO is CIRC.
Not the
LE,
credit savings.
not the savings and credit cooperative organization. I said, God help this country. And I hope, really, like I've mentioned, we need to train Ugandans because there are only 2 cooperative colleges that are teaching certificates and diplomas. Unlike Kenya and Tanzania, where you would send these politicians to Moshi to go and maybe spend 6 months to learn and understand the cooperatives. But I know it is not too late. Let us work together. Let's invest in education. Let us educate all our people, including politicians. I'm so grateful. I want to thank everybody. Ugandans, let's come together. Let's be stronger using the cooperative model. I thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Ivan Asimwe, General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, for your time and most information regarding establishment of a cooperative bank. Let's keep hope alive. Let's ensure that we understand the cooperative movement, because it is one where I believe even the ordinary Ugandan will get out of poverty, because they'll be able to get these loans that are tailor-made, especially for what they are investing in. Have a lovely day. God bless you. See you tomorrow, God willing, for God and my country. Good.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra. This week on UBC.